Before we begin, let me explain something that may sound slightly confusing or deeply unnecessary to anyone from England. In Brazil, before the National League even starts, football clubs compete in something called state championships. Yes, football tournaments organised by state. Imagine if England decided to warm up the Premier League with the Greater London Cup or the Yorkshire Championship. Exactly. It sounds chaotic, emotional, and completely illogical, which is precisely why Brazilians love it. These competitions are short, intense, full of rivalries and often completely unpredictable. And today, we'll look at my predictions for the 2026 state champions in 4 major regions of Brazil: Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais, and Rio Grande do Sul. Sao Paulo State Championship. Favourite, Palmeiras, obviously. Let's begin in Sao Paulo, where football debates last longer than most relationships. The obvious favourite here is Palmeiras. They're organised, efficient, disciplined, and annoyingly consistent. They don't panic, they don't rush, and they usually win even when nobody is quite sure how. However, football would be terribly boring without a bit of chaos. Corinthians, now with Memphis Depay, suddenly look far more dangerous than usual. And then there's Neymar, with his contract renewed, which clearly has nothing to do with my previous video asking him to stay. Pure coincidence, obviously. So yes, Palmeiras are the favourites. But in Sao Paulo, surprises are not accidents. They're traditions. Rio de Janeiro State Championship, Flamengo. But watch Fluminense. Now we move to Rio de Janeiro, where football is played with flair, emotion, and a healthy disregard for emotional stability. The safe prediction here is Flamengo. They usually have one of the strongest squads in the country, full of quality, confidence, and players who know they're being watched by millions, constantly. When Flamengo clicks, they're terrifying. When they don't, well, the internet gets very busy. But keep an eye on Fluminense. They have a habit of quietly organising themselves, playing intelligent football, and suddenly ruining everyone's predictions. They may not arrive as favourites, but they often leave with a very smug smile. In Rio, logic is optional, and surprises are mandatory. Now, let's talk about Minas Gerais, a place where football is taken very seriously, but happiness is approached with extreme caution. This year, my prediction goes to Cruzeiro. Yes, at Cruzeiro. The club now has a strong SAF structure, smart investments, and something that looks suspiciously like stability. They've also brought in Taiti, a manager known for discipline, organisation, and making football feel like a well-run office meeting. On paper, everything makes sense. The squad looks competitive. The project looks serious. Optimism cautiously exists, and there is always a but in Brazilian football, this only works if they don't sell their best players halfway through the season, especially Caio Jorge, because selling your main striker in the middle of a title race is a very Brazilian way of saying, we were doing far too well anyway. If Cruzeiro resists that temptation, stays organised and avoids unnecessary chaos, they genuinely have a strong chance of lifting the trophy, which of course means something will probably go wrong. But let's remain politely optimistic. Finally, we arrive in the south, in Rio Grande do Sul, a place where football is treated less like a sport and more like a lifelong emotional commitment. My prediction here is Grêmio. They have tradition, experience, and a remarkable ability to perform under pressure. Even when things don't look perfect, Grêmio somehow finds a way to compete, and very often, to win. They are the kind of team that improves when things get difficult, which is deeply inconvenient for everyone else. So, those are my predictions for the 2026 Brazilian State Championships: Palmeiras, Flamengo, Cruzeiro, and Grêmio. Of course, football is wonderfully unpredictable, especially in Brazil, and that's exactly why we love it. If you enjoyed this breakdown, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, in Brazilian football, logic is optional, but passion is mandatory.